7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Last Row Podcast, a fan's perspective on sports,
An ARM Media Production.
with your host, Brian Marshoni.
And welcome in, everybody, to the Last Row Podcast, a fan's perspective on sports. It's Brian here inside the ARM Media Solutions Studios on this Saturday night, August the 1st, 2026. Welcome in to the post-show for WWE SummerSlam. We want to welcome those of you hopefully hearing us tonight for the first time on the streaming platform Sideline.fm. Hopefully you're hearing us there. I hope that you are hearing us loud and clear in the TikTok world, as we are live now on TikTok once again for the third time here this evening. Hopefully you are well, you are happy, you are healthy, and happy with the SummerSlam main event, because quite honestly, that was a bit of a shocker here tonight to see and or hear Brock Lesnar get on the microphone at the end of the night. And I was not expecting it. I didn't plan on it. So let's go ahead and let's get the propers out of the way first and foremost, okay? We're just going to test some music real quick. Okay, so we don't hear it there. CC Italio, good evening. How are you? Welcome into the show here tonight. Hope you are good. Hope you're happy and healthy and wise and wealthy, as the old saying goes. Let me just try this here real quick. Okay, all right, good. We can hear that. So it looks like everything is working as it should at this point. Knock on the proverbial wood. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's get the propers out of the way. First and foremost, if you are joining us tonight for the very first time, hi, good evening, how are you? Welcome. We are so happy that you are here tonight with us inside the ARM Media Solutions Studios. First thing we're going to do, big thanks to our friends over at Sideline.fm/Last Row Podcast. They are having us live tonight on their platform, audio only, and we have just put the link in the chat there so you can join us live on Sideline.fm. You can call us, you can reach out to us, tell us what your thoughts are on today's events, of course, in the world of sports. We are going to break down tonight SummerSlam night number 1, of course. That's the big news of the night. We're also going to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. We're going to talk some NFL and training camp, because quite honestly, there's a lot of injuries that are happening right now in the NFL. And there's quite a bit that are pretty detrimental to some teams that need some help. So we're going to be doing all of that here tonight. Let's get everything taken care of. If you're on YouTube Live, X Live, you can catch us at Last Row Podcast. If you're on TikTok or TikTok Live, follow along at last.row.podcast. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcast and Spotify at Last Row Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook as well at The Last Row Podcast. And then, of course, Sideline.fm/Last Row Podcast. Make sure you follow us over there as well. Greatly appreciate the folks over at Sideline for having us on once again here tonight. All right. Check out our website, www.lastrowpodcast.com. That is where you can find links to all of our wonderful, wonderful sponsors, including Forever Finds Thrift, as well as I Know a Guy Remodeling, who we'll be hearing from here in just a little bit. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about WWE SummerSlam, shall we? And all of the different elements tonight that were there, all of the different storylines that were there, and we'll just start from the top. Liv Morgan retaining the WWE Women's Championship tonight over Io Sky, her first title defense. BBN, good evening. Welcome into the show. We are streaming currently here on TikTok Live as well as on YouTube X, sideline.fm/Last Row Podcast. So make sure you follow us all on there. Yeah, I agree. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. I thought Liv going over in terms of over Io, I thought was very interesting. I was wondering if they were, for lack of a better term, trying to cover up any type of injury, potentially with Liv. And, again, with that being said, I just have to wonder whether or not the fact that they, with Liv Morgan, not having defended her title for, realistically 100 days, was interesting. I'm going to get to that. Number one Bills fan, thank you so much for joining. Welcome into the show. We are going to we're going to talk about some preseason football and all of that fun stuff as well. If you are just joining us here tonight on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify, good evening. Welcome into the Last Row Podcast. We are breaking down WWE SummerSlam and also the rest of the day's news and notes. Bobby, good evening. Welcome in. So, WWE, normally the old-timer rule, if you will, is that defend your title once every 30 days. That's how everything was. It is. That's how more times than not, how things are still portrayed in that regard. Now, in this instance here, Liv hasn't defended her title for 100 days. Okay? What does that mean? Well, she hasn't defended her title, plain and simple. Okay? But I was really surprised to see them go with Liv tonight over Io Sky. I thought maybe Roxanne might screw something up. I thought maybe, you might see Raquel screw something up just to kind of plant the seeds for a different feud, if you will. That didn't happen. I'm wondering if they're pushing that off a bit, which they very well may be. We'll have to see. The other part of this, Tunes, good evening. Welcome in. Or Tons, excuse me. Welcome into the show. We are, I was shocked that Io got pinned clean. I thought maybe there'd be some kind of a rough and tough ending, but look, it worked. Liv retains, she goes on, and she continues her streak of being the greatest women's world champion of all time, as she is currently in that storyline and professing. Now, Eric, good evening. Welcome into the show. Second match out of the night, I thought there were a number of botches. I thought there were some things that could have been cleaned up a lot better than what they were. I thought that overall you had a number of missteps, for lack of a better term, on both the Uso side and LA Knights. And I might take heat for this, and that's fine. Brother Sean, good evening. I wasn't very impressed with Royce Keys. Left a little bit to be desired. His physique is fantastic. No question about that. Man is built. But in-ring ability, I just kind of left blah. Didn't really matter to me. Solo Sikoa, I thought, played a brilliant face role, kind of in a clown capacity, if you will, as the unserious Uso, if you will. But I thought that overall, Solo played an integral part in the ending of it obviously. LA Knight, look, LA Knight to me deserves a push. And I know that most people are thinking, well, he's over really well. He's over with the fans. Look, the man can still talk. The man can still work. The man can still do what he's supposed to do, and that's wrestle. I was a little bit disappointed though in the Usos. In Jay specifically, I thought Jay had a rough one tonight. I thought Jimmy did too. I thought both of them were rough. But be that as it may, some nights you have that. Some nights you have that. Let's talk here about. I want to talk first Punk and Cody, if we can. I thought that was such a classic throwback match to the 80s and or the 90s. It was so beautifully done. I thought that having Randy Orton come in and cost Cody was perfect. I thought it was really, really interesting to see how the crowd reacted to Randy, which obviously was huge. I mean, a big babyface pop for him. I truly also thought that overall there was a really good opportunity for Cody to turn heel, but they're holding back on that, and that's fine. I have no issues with them waiting on this whatsoever. I will say this though. I really like that Punk is continuing. Sports Edits, good evening. TikToker, good evening. I'm really excited to see where they go with Punk next, because I think that there's a lot of mileage left on those tires for Punk, and I think that he could absolutely carry them through potentially the Rumble. I'm sure they're going to end up with Gunther and Punk at some point. I am local 1759. Good evening. Yeah, I remember when he did that too, and it was a disaster. But you know what? I give the guy props for doing it. Jack is okay. I'm glad to hear that. Blobs are among us. Hello. Welcome into the SummerSlam post show here on the Last Row podcast. Cody versus Punk, though, I thought was absolutely beautiful. I thought it was a beautifully told story. I thought that both men really were absolutely in their element. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the perilous return. Good evening. I thought that the return of Randy was great. I thought that the chain wrestling was beautiful. I thought that overall it was just a great overall match, and I was really happy that it happened. I thought that overall both of those guys really told a beautiful story. Match was great, as far as I'm concerned. The selling, the story, the one moment for me that I got very nervous, I'll just be honest with everybody, was when CM Punk went to the top rope when Cody was out on the table. Tommy Tough Knuckles, good evening. Jersey, good evening. Jason, good evening. And Punk, it looked like from the angle, overshot the table. But he didn't, thankfully. So there's, we have that. Anthony, good evening. Okay. Let's talk about Nick Aldis and Gunther. Nick Stark, good evening. Welcome in. I am a little bit, Raymond, good evening. Kevin, good evening. I am a little bit, I was surprised that they went over with Gunther, but I also wasn't surprised, and here's the reason why. Look, the fact that Aldis got to come out to Oasis, number one. Number two, the fact that he got to come out to being the national treasure was brilliant. I loved it. A good callback. I wish they would have done more of a build-up for him and his story. I Ardidal, hello. El Lobo, Lopez Jr., welcome in. Overall, though, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought that he looked great in the ring. He looked fresh. He looked healthy. He looked put together. I thought he didn't really look like he'd missed a step in 3 years. I thought that all this was very, very good. Gunther is just, in my opinion, head and shoulders above everybody right now in terms of his ability to tell a story and his ability to put on such a great match and such a wonderful story. And how that all transpired tonight and how they realistically told this story was so good. And I really, truly thought that it was absolutely incredible. I really liked the ending where they had Aldis tap. The crowd was clearly behind Nick. The moment at the end, and Paul Levesque talked about it on the post show. If you got the chance to see that, you got to see or you got to see Mickie James and their child. She and Nick Aldis's child together. In the ring in a spontaneous moment, which was great. Marcus, good evening. Connor, good evening. Youssef, hello. Savage, hello. Wallace, Unique, good evening. Welcome in to the Last Row podcast. We are talking right now WWE SummerSlam, and then we're going to continue with our regular, usual sports talk with NFL conversation, MLB conversation, so on and so forth. Kayfabe Kings, good evening. Welcome in. Glad to see you a part of the show tonight. Would love to get people's thoughts on SummerSlam in the chat. Make sure to remember to join us on sideline.fm/Last Row Podcast. You can join us there. You can interact with us there in the chat. You can call in, talk to us about it, so on and so forth. Oba and Brock. Let me. I'm skipping a match, and I do apologize. Brie Bella, the Bellas, and Paige versus Fatal Influence. I thought that it was the right move having Fatal Influence go over. Not sure necessarily about Brie Bella's injury to her right shoulder. I'm guessing that it was probably why the match got cut short a little bit, I'm guessing. Lane, I saw that. We're going to get to that here in just a little bit, sir. And so I'm wondering what happened there. So we'll see what happens with that. I thought Nikki turning on Paige was great. It sets up the feud between those two. It allows Brie then to go heal up if need be. So yeah, I like that. Otherwise, I wasn't a fan of the match. I thought Fatal Influence looked good. I really, really, really like Fallon Henley. I think she is a star in the making. I think she's great. I also think Lainey Reed is too. I think Lainey Reed is very, very good in the ring. JC is solid. She's a great hand in there, no question about it. All right, let's talk Oba and Brock. Main event of the show. Brock passing the torch. I thought it was good. I think it's smart. I think it ultimately allows them to now have Oba be the next dominant big figure that they've got. And quite honestly, it makes sense. It makes sense. And if this was Lesnar's swan song at SummerSlam, which I think it is, that's fine. I enjoy it. I think it's great. I love the fact that Brock put him over clean. Brock going above and beyond that after the show, calling him into the ring, telling him that, hugging him. Brock doesn't really break character. So for Brock to do that is a big deal. It's a big deal. So overall, look, tonight was solid. Tonight was big matches. I'm curious to see how tomorrow night, how that happens, how it breaks down. You've got Danhausen that's going to be on there. You've got Seth and Roman. Punk and Cody was great. I thought Punk and Cody and Aldis and Gunther were the matches of the night. I thought they were both fantastic. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they plan this with Randy and Cody now. So yeah, I mean, we're just going to have to kind of wait and see. We'll see how tomorrow night breaks down. I look for Seth tomorrow night to lose to Roman. I think he has to. I'm curious to see what might happen in that after the match or during the match. There might be a run-in, maybe. I can't say per se, but I wouldn't be shocked. I won't be shocked by it. Darnell, good evening. Mr. Rhubarb, good evening. Welcome in. Sinise, good evening. Lane, again, hello. And again, real quick, if you guys are just joining us, please come on over to sideline.fm/Last Row Podcast. That is where you can interact more in the chat. You can interact with calls. It's essentially like a voice over IP where you just you call, we take the call, we talk, we disconnect, all that fun stuff. So you let us know what's on your mind, what you're thinking, and like a sports talk show kind of thing, except in a podcast form. So that was night one of SummerSlam. Overall, an okay show, I thought, for night one. Let's see how night two is. I'm wondering if some of the matches tonight shouldn't be on night two, but be that as it may. Night two is going to have to step up. Night two will have to step up, and I'm interested to see how that all shakes down. All right, let's talk real quick Major League Baseball. And let's talk here, if we can, about the trade deadline. Now, the trade deadline is Monday evening at 5 o'clock Eastern, I believe, 4 o'clock Central. Now, we will be on Monday night to break down all the trades, good and or bad. One trade that has happened just within the last hour involves the Seattle Mariners, as Lane said, and the Chicago White Sox. This is per ESPN. The White Sox are acquiring right-handed pitcher Luis Castillo in a trade for the Mariners for reliever Sir Anthony Dominguez, outfielder Nolan Jones, catching prospect Boston Smith, sources tell Jeff Passan at ESPN. That is a lot to give up if you're the White Sox. I know they were very high on Boston Smith, I know they were very high on him. It gives the Mariners some relief, which I understand, some relief help. I wouldn't do much in terms of messing with the offense right now of the White Sox. What I would tell you, if I were a Sox fan, Like Word Sports, good evening. Dave Dez, good evening. FB, good evening. Angie, good evening. What I will tell you is I would re-sign Murakami tomorrow. You absolutely have to re-sign that man because he is absolutely a star in the making. He is one of the reasons why, and look, let's make no bones about this, and I'll be the first one to admit it. Will Venable, at the beginning of the season, I did not think was going to be the manager that the White Sox needed. I didn't think he was the guy that the White Sox should have hired. But boy, oh boy, did he manage his rear end off here over the last, realistically, I would say 6 weeks, 8 weeks really, when Murakami was out. They did a majority of this winning without Murakami, without their best hitter. And so for Murakami to now come back into that lineup with Colson Montgomery, who I am telling you right here and now, Colson Montgomery is a bona fide star. Colson Montgomery is the real deal. I'm just telling you that, okay? Montgomery is absolutely the real deal for the White Sox. And I really look forward to seeing him grow over the next couple of seasons and mature. I will say this much, though, about Chicago baseball right now. Both Chicago teams are in the playoffs if the season ended today. Now, if you have been with us at any point in time throughout the last, 2 months or so, give or take, we have been warning you. Enjoy baseball right now while you can, because it's not going to be around much anymore. After this season, it is going to be a massive hole in the scheduling because of the fact of the lockout. The lockout is going to happen. I hate being the one that brings being the bearer of bad news. But I truly believe that the lockout will happen. And when it does happen, we have to remember that both Chicago teams are on the up and coming. Everybody wants Craig Counsell fired on the north side. I don't understand why. The reason why I'm putting it that way is this. Craig Counsell has done everything he possibly can to, for lack of a better term, keep this team afloat. Dustin Kelly, the hitting coach, not impressed still. Tommy Hotovy, pitching coach, not impressed still. Not impressed with their strength and conditioning crew either. Quite honestly, the strength and conditioning crew, they may need to look for a different line of work in Chicago, because the way that pitching staff has fallen apart, realistically, I am happy to say that the Cubs have been able to weather that. And by them weathering that, they have been able to, without question, they're still in the thick of it here. Now, catching Milwaukee is going to be a very difficult task. There's no doubt about that. But if they're able to catch Milwaukee, then realistically, you have as good a shot as anybody in the National League. The Dodgers, yes, they look unbeatable, but Ohtani's not pitching. Kyle Tucker is looking like Kyle Tucker from a year ago, where he struggled in every at-bat. And you can say safely that the Cubs were the one that won that free agency battle, if you will. So, look, I expect the Cubs to be in on some pitching. The White Sox deal was big. White Sox deal was huge. Getting Luis Castillo. They gave up a lot. But when you have Kyle Teal as your catcher, you have that luxury. You're afforded that luxury. TMW, Big Daddy, welcome into the show. We've talked about WWE SummerSlam. We've talking now about Major League Baseball and the trade market. That is happening. We're going to be breaking down a little bit of NFL trading camp as well. The Atlanta Braves are acquiring outfielder Lane Thomas and left-hander Bailey Falter from the Kansas City Royals. Again, per Jeff Passan. That's just about an hour ago. So, some trades are starting to happen. I look for the Cubs to be active. I look for them to try to make a big move. If they don't make a big move, I believe questions have to be asked. I believe that questions have to be answered by Jed Hoyer. I believe that questions have to be asked of Tom Ricketts and of, various powers that be, Carter Hawkins. I think things need to happen on the north side if a major deal isn't made. Tarek Skubal's out there. You want to ensure domination in the division, you go get him. David Alexander, good evening. Welcome in. You go out and you get him. if you go out and get, a Freddie Peralta instead of Tarek Skubal, if you're the Cubs, that's a failure in my opinion. That's a loss in the trade column. Because now you're allowing Milwaukee or the Dodgers or any other National League team to go out and get him. And that's not what you want if you're the Cubs. If you're the Cubs, you want an ace in the hole in the form of Tarek Skubal. And he could be your ace for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Now, you would have to give up Matt Shaw, probably Ben Brown, which, listen, I'm okay with giving up Ben Brown. Ben Brown hasn't done much for me. I'll be honest. Maybe one of your farmhands, which, for all intents and purposes here, if you look at the farmhand ERA and pitching, it's not good. It hasn't been good all year. So if I'm the Cubs, look, I'm okay giving up Ben Brown. I'm okay giving up Jackson Wiggins. Okay, I'm okay giving up some prospects if it means I get the reigning Cy Young Award winner. Plain and simple. All right, Bills on top, welcome in. 8996KR, welcome in. Hot Dog, hello. All right, other sports news here tonight that's breaking as we are coming on the air. The Cubs win. I will say this. Cubs beating the Yankees tonight is a big win. I will say this. Tomorrow it's going to be a much different game with Garrett Cole on the mound. The Cubs have to strike early. Pete Crow Armstrong is absolutely the leader of this ball club. Seiya Suzuki is absolutely one of the leaders of this ball club. Nico Horner, absolutely one of the leaders of this ball club. I really like the nucleus that the Cubs are building with those guys. And I think that with the Cubs, ultimately, there's going to be an opportunity here down the road, whether you trade Seiya, whether you move Matt Shaw, whatever it's going to be. Look, Craig Counsell is doing a phenomenal job as manager. In 3 years, he's 238 and 197. Mark, good evening. Welcome into the show. He has absolutely done a great job as manager of this team. The Cubs are 6-4 against the AL East this season. They win tonight 5-2. And look, they have a legitimate grip on the playoffs. And that's what you want if you're the Cubs. You want that grip. You want to have it on. You want to be able to say, hey, look, we're clinging to the wild card. We've got that, but we still want the division too. And I'm okay with that. I think that's a great idea. That's a great mindset to have if you're the Cubs. If you're the Cubs, absolutely. Seiya looks great. I like him as your DH. I know he's not a typical or a prototypical designated hitter where he's a thumper like a Kyle Schwarber, who, mind you, I would absolutely love to see back in a Cubs uniform, but obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon. Per David Haw, this is just about 25 minutes ago. Per David Haw, the White Sox reportedly will take on as much as $25 million in payroll. I'm okay with that. When was the last time they were buyers at the deadline? When was the last time? Per John Heyman, just about an hour ago, Dodgers scrapped big-time outfield prospect Zaire Hope. Word is he's on standby in case of a trade. No trade known that is done yet, but Hope, the number 25 Major League Baseball prospect, would only be part of a huge trade. He's that good. I wonder if that means Tarek Skubal is going to the Dodgers. Dodgers could make it happen. Dodgers could make it happen. Just saying. And if the Dodgers make it happen, shame on the Cubs. Cubs didn't want to pay it then. But the fact that if the Dodgers get him, that is going to be a big deal if it happens. All right, let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to shift gears. We're going to talk NFL training camp as a ton of injuries are happening throughout the NFL. So we will be right back here on America's fan-driven sports show, where it's real fans, real talk, and you are front row to it all, right here on the Last Row Podcast. Are you thinking about selling your house someday? Or maybe you're like me and you're going to stay put for years. Either way, updating your home is one of the smartest investments you can make. Whether it's modernizing your kitchen, upgrading your bathroom, installing new flooring, or finishing that basement, maybe it's putting on a new deck. I Know a Guy Remodeling can help increase both your home's value and your everyday enjoyment. Quality work, honest service, attention to detail. That's what separates them from the rest. They've earned a reputation for treating every project like it's their own home. If you have been putting off that remodeling project, well, now it's time. You can check out a link to their Facebook page on our website, www.lastrowpodcast.com. Because everybody deserves to know a guy. And now you do. I Know a Guy Remodeling. All right, everybody, welcome back into the Last Row Podcast, a fan's perspective on sports. We are coming to you live from the ARM Media Solutions Studios on this Saturday night, August the 1st. My goodness, I cannot believe we are already in August. But that's okay. That just means we're one day closer to football. So, speaking of, let's talk about football. Did you guys see the story about Will Levis, Tennessee quarterback, backup quarterback at this point, who believes that, quote, and he said this, and this is an actual quote I'm reading, "I'm better than I have ever been. There are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me." I'm going to read that quote again for those of you that need to hear it for a second time, okay? Will Levis, Tennessee Titan quarterback, said, and I quote, "I'm better than I have ever been. There are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me." Well, Bruce, good evening. Welcome in. Fletcher, hello. Kevin, Sports Prods, welcome in. Ian, welcome in. I have to say this, and it might come across a little bit harsh. However, Will Levis is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Will Levis is not a good quarterback. And Will Levis is absolutely not, for lack of a better term, he's not better than any other starting quarterback in the NFL right now. I'm sorry, he's not. For him to go publicly out and say that, now look, we'll call it like we see it here, okay? Will Levis is a confident guy. We know that, right? We understand what Will is all about. He's a very confident young man. However, this is just out over his skis as far as I'm concerned. This is just way out front. He has no business saying this. Now, granted, I understand he's a confident young man. But if he were a starting quarterback in this league, don't you think he'd be starting by now? Somewhere else, maybe, other than Tennessee? I tend to think so. But the fact that he believes, and he should, okay? There's no question about that. He absolutely should believe that he's a starting quarterback in this league. But he is not better than all of the starting quarterbacks. I'm sorry, he's not. Jacob, good evening. KJ, good evening. Mr. Mayo, exactly right, Bruce, exactly right. Mr. Mayonnaise. And look, I get what he's doing. Brutally Honest Sports, perfect timing. Welcome into the show. We're being brutally honest right now about Will Levis and his comments that were made today and reported today. Will Levis at this point in time needs to not worry about any other starting quarterback in the league. Will Levis needs to worry about making the Titans roster. He's got a new coaching staff that he has to prove himself to. And if he doesn't prove himself to Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll and the rest of the Tennessee Titans coaching staff, he's not going to be on the roster. And therefore, he'll be looking to try to join somewhere else after saying to everybody that he's better than any other quarterback in the league. So Will needs to just kind of pump the brakes here a bit and understand that, quite honestly, he needs to recognize exactly who he is. So, yeah. Something else that has happened here today in Major League Baseball. In the NFL, and that is that Broncos coach Sean Payton told Cynthia Freeland of NFL Network that the Broncos will explore bringing in Taysom Hill, who was a tight end with New Orleans. Not a shock at all. Not a shock to see it, not a shock to hear it. Not a shock, really, that he would be potentially aligning with Denver. It gives Sean Payton a backup quarterback. It gives Sean Payton a tight end option. And we'll see. We'll see what Taysom's got left in the tank. But, again, we'll see exactly what happens. But, again, Taysom's got a little bit of mileage on the tires. There's no question about it. And I'll just say this. If Taysom Hill ends up back in Denver with Sean Payton, you can bet your bottom dollar that Sean Payton is going to utilize him the best way he knows how. And there's going to be a little bit of pressure on Bo Nix, in my opinion. Because if Bo Nix struggles, as we've heard throughout last year and through camp this year and whatnot, and if there's a little bit of dissension between he and Sean Payton knows what Taysom Hill can do. Sean Payton knows how to use him. Just saying. That's a story to keep an eye on. Story to keep an eye on. All right, let's talk now about some injuries. Kansas City Chiefs star Xavier Worthy out today of camp because of a shoulder injury that apparently he has suffered today. And the long and short of it is this. It doesn't look good for Xavier Worthy and the Chiefs. Now, they've also lost or had an injury scare earlier today at camp with their rookie wideout, Cyrus Allen, who bruised his shin. Nothing's broken, nothing is torn. Everything else is intact. He bruised it. So thankfully, that's okay. Nothing crazy. So that's good. That's a good sign. But there are injuries piling up in training camp. And you have to wonder, including, we talked about it earlier on here tonight, the injury to Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, hence why they re-signed Deebo Samuel. Look, if Mike Evans goes down with a hamstring injury, again, like he always typically does every single year, that's a problem. Because now Deebo's going to be your number one. And Deebo's not a number one anymore. I'm sorry, he's not. He hasn't been a number one in years. So Deebo has to look in, the fountain of youth and see what he can find, because right now, Deebo Samuel is not the number one option for the 49ers. It's Mike Evans, as long as Mike Evans stays healthy. If Mike Evans gets hurt, then the 49ers are up a creek without a paddle, to utilize that term. All right, let's talk here, if we can, about other news in the NFL. And Bo Nix has said he's not going to be shy after the ankle surgery. I think these younger quarterbacks, the younger quarterbacks in the NFL today have to understand that longevity is just as important as are the results. What I mean by that is this. Look, Mitchell Trubisky, when he came out, he was the number, 2 or number third pick in the draft? He's made a hell of a career being a backup. He's learned the position. He's learned how to take on the responsibilities of a backup while also preserving his body. The NFL is brutal, folks. We know that. We see it all the time. We see the injuries that happen. However, what I will say is this. The fact that you have guys like Jackson Dart and Bo Nix and Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Caleb is a little bit. Has learned over now in his what will be his third year. He's learned how to slide better. But these young quarterbacks have to do a better job of taking care of themselves when they are up high, when they are going down to slide. They need to do a better job of taking care of themselves because they're leaving themselves exposed for massive hits. If we look at Jackson Dart last year, he was evaluated multiple times for concussion-like symptoms. I believe it was something along the lines of 6 different times. He was he was evaluated for concussion. That's not good. That's not good. And I believe that overall, these younger quarterbacks have to learn the position better in terms of their abilities to slide, to take care of themselves better, to be able to have longevity. Because as I stated just a moment ago, longevity equals results, equals more money. If you are able to be an NFL quarterback and you are able to absolutely have a long career, look at Chase Daniels, ladies and gentlemen. Guy hardly played, made a great career as a backup, in the Hall of Fame in terms of banking, because he made bank everywhere he went. K-Hogs, good evening. BB4, good evening. It's just something that is, these quarterbacks today have to learn how to do better. They've got to be able to protect themselves better. And if they don't, and until they do, we're going to continue to see all of these different quarterbacks, with Justin Fields as he was, and Caleb Williams, and so on and so forth. I believe that these younger quarterbacks have to do a better job of protecting themselves, because if they don't, their careers aren't going to be very long and they're not going to make a whole lot of money. And that's ultimately not what this is about. They want to make money. So again, it's just something to watch. I just believe that overall you're going to have a number of different guys that this year are going to take unnecessary hits, unnecessary blows, because of the fact they're not, for lack of a better term, they're not protecting themselves. And that's an issue. All right. I want to talk here about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, if I may. This has become quite an issue. And Deshaun Watson said, quote, "The preseason is a great opportunity after his injuries." And he's right. Look, he's had a pair of Achilles surgeries that have sidelined him for almost 2 years. He hasn't played football, meaningful football, in a good long time. And quite honestly, he has this contract that he was signed to that is absolutely awful. A&B, good evening. Absolutely awful. He will never, ever live up to that contract in Cleveland. There is no way Deshaun Watson lives up to that contract. So, I believe, truthfully, that Deshaun Watson's best days are way behind him. They were in college at Clemson. It was a storybook career there. And there is zero reason to believe at all that Deshaun Watson is as good today as he was at Clemson, because he's not. And again, just my thought. But Deshaun Watson, that contract that he has is absolutely going to be a killer in terms of what he's owed versus what he's worth. Because he's not worth it. I'm sorry, he's not. And anybody that thinks he is completely wrong. Completely wrong. All right. That is going to put an end to this edition of the Last Row Podcast. I want to thank you so much for being with us. If you were with us on Sideline.fm, thank you so much for being a part of the show. We will be back with you folks there on Sideline.fm tomorrow night for SummerSlam Night 2 with the Last Row Podcast. We will be on the air tomorrow when the show comes on the air. And we will have all of the matches breaking down from start to finish, including Danhausen versus Dominic Mysterio in the Human Monies on a Pole match. We're going to have, the women's ladder match to crown the interim women's heavyweight champion. Seth and Roman, of course. We know about that. So, again, it starts at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock. We will be on the air shortly beforehand. Main card starts at 5 o'clock Central Time. So we will be here for that. I want to thank our friends at I Know a Guy Remodeling. I want to thank all of you that are listening, whether that is on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much for doing so. And until next time, I'll see you in the last row.